What a beautiful day. I'm out riding the Evo. You can't get much better than this. No, you can, but it's pretty good. And it's Evos we're going to talk about today. We all know they sound good, but are they still relevant in today's world? Now, for those of you who are newer to Harley Davidsons or not familiar with them at all, the Harley Davidson Evolution engine ran from 1984 all the way through to 2000. That's what it looks like, if it matters. Let's hear it. And that's what it sounds like. Could probably make it idle a bit lower and sound a lot cooler. So I own an Evo in this beautiful heritage behind me. I've also owned two Evos as new bikes when they came out in the 90s. They were new then and old now, and Harley Davidson has come a long way since the Evo was a new bike. And that's the big question. Are they still suitable today? So put in the comments, do you still ride one? Would you buy one today? Now that shovels are getting older, maybe Evos are the new shovel. So here are 7 reasons I think that they are the bike to get today. Now, reason number 1, Harley Davidsons are really seriously expensive anyway, and they seem to have gone up in price over the last 5 years. They've really jumped up. It's the talk of the town. A lot of people are saying, is it still worth buying a Harley? You've got to shell out, well, here in Australia, $45,000 odd, even more for a touring bike, well into the 30s for a Softail. And generally speaking, as good as the new bikes are, and they really are good bikes, I have just as much fun riding this old Evo. You see, Harley Davidson Evos are really cheap motorcycles when you compare them to new bikes. They're probably not as cheap as the early twin cams. They seem to be the absolute pick if you want a cheap Harley Davidson, but they certainly are cheap. Now, here in Australia, if I look at the asking prices for Evos, a lot of people want considerably more than some of the twin cams. I doubt very much that they are getting those prices. I know when I was looking for this bike, there was some absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion, prices for Evos, and I don't think people got them. And I did notice that people were dropping the prices considerably over time. So I think I got this bike at around about the sweet spot. Doesn't really matter what the price is. The point is, whatever is advertised is not the real price, and Evos are going cheap. So it makes it a really good buy. Because think about this, if it's a cheap bike and you're having just as much fun, would you spend more? So there's positives and negatives about everything. I guess a cheaper, older bike possibly could be less reliable. But I mean, I bought this with 34,000 kilometers. People don't ride Harley Davidsons. So with a little bit of attention, it's actually good. And it's a fair call not to pay too much for these old Evos. A lot of them have just been sitting around for 30 years. This had hardly been ridden. When I started cleaning it up, things like the hoses had deteriorated. You know, so it needs a little bit of attention. The tyres were horrible, stale and old. So there is a little bit of catching up to do with these older bikes, but still. So these bikes are cheap and seriously fun to ride. Now, don't forget to support the channel's supporters. That's Resurgence Gear Motorcycle Clothing.
Holy crap!
Check out my favourite jacket, which is like a motorcycle shirt. Very easy to wear. It's fantastic gear, keeps you safe. I wear it all the time. Get onto it so that you are old and not dead. Now, don't forget, if you like my videos and you want to support the channel, check out the Old Not Dead merchandise. If you don't ride a Harley and you wear Old Not Dead gear, you will look as cool as if you were on a Harley. And if you already have a Harley, blast off, show the world you're old, not dead. Way to go.
Representing.
T-shirts, we've got T-shirts in different colours, different logos, caps, beanies, stickers, patches, key rings, everything. Thanks very much, I really appreciate your support. Now, number 2 is they're easy to tune. If I look at my 2020 Street Glide, I've got to go and buy a tuner for it. So here in Australia, that's going to cost at least $600. Then I've got to book in an appointment with a tuner, which is fine, but it takes time. I've got to wait, and then I've got to actually turn up at his premises. I've got to, if I don't know the tuner, I've got to hope that he knows what he's doing. And then I've got to spend money on the actual dyno time. Now, if I want to change anything on my bike, I've got to book that dyno tune time again and get it retuned. So there's no computer on the Evo. It's just a matter of turning an air and fuel mixture screw and adjusting an idle screw. So when you make a change to this bike, a new set of pipes like I've done recently, Thanks, Danny. It's just a matter of playing around with those particular inputs. The way I did it was I increased the size of the jets because I wanted to see what would happen. And once I fixed the air intake leak, the actual adjustments were just a matter of minutes. Very easy, don't have to leave the garage. Have some fun watching a YouTube video to see how it works, and off you go. You can do it yourself. So I found out that I've got an intake manifold leak on the old Evo. That will explain why the tuning has been so difficult. I keep thinking that I've almost got it right. It rides pretty well, and I think it just doesn't go as well as I remember an Evo going. So the spark plugs look good, and that was confirmed by Callum, who's a Harley Davidson mechanic, if you saw that episode. And then of course he discovered that the problem and the reason I'm having so much difficulty getting it to 100% is because there's an intake manifold leak. So let's fix that today.
Don't wanna waste time. I'll never be this young. I'll never be this young again. Don't wanna chase highs when I'm too.
And the reason I'm doing this instead of pulling that right off is because last time when I got this bike and I cleaned the carburetor, all of the time in the job was chewed up trying to get the choke back through to the other side. I'm not doing it again. I'll do the other side. This works all right actually. It didn't work on the M8. It was a waste of money, but not now. It's only brute force because I'm a bit of a sook when it comes to these things. If you don't do these things all of the time, then I guess you worry that something will break, and then you don't, alright, you don't use enough force because you think things will break. A little bit of extra force and everything's good now. Now these are just baked on.
I'm never coming down, never coming down, never coming down again. I was born to be this high.
Oh, look at that. That's, I don't know if it makes a difference, but there's sort of an indent and a cut that's not quite through on the old one. Alright, new gaskets, rubbers, whatever you call them, on. And everything looks like it fits better than when it came off. So the big question is, can I put it back together?
I was born to be this high, born to be this high, born to be this high, my friend. Won't you come up here to my altitude?
Right, so it seems to have gone on the straightest using lots of rubber grease. Callum did say use lots of rubber grease. The correct amount of rubber grease is whatever you put on. If you think there's enough, put on heaps more. That worked for me. Right, that's way better. It's pretty much straight now. I would say perfectly straight. So let's not mess this up. I can't believe how easy, no, it wasn't that, well yeah, it was pretty easy. I can't believe what a big difference that makes. Straight away, that bike idles, no problem. That would have taken half an hour to warm up properly to get it to idle most of the time. And it's absolutely stone cold. I know it's a warm day, it's stone cold, idles straight away. You probably don't even need the choke. I had the choke out a couple of millimeters and pushed it back in. Still idles straight away. Job's done. Let's ride. Now, of course, there are negatives there because turning a screw is never going to be as accurate and the bike is never going to be as efficient as something that is computer controlled. Big question is, do we care? Now, number 3, it's a visceral experience riding this bike. Visceral relates to how things feel or the way you feel them. And that's in contrast to the intellectual choice of a motorcycle that looks good on paper. It's really easy to find a bike that on paper blows this one away. But jump on each, which one do you like better? And that's applicable to all brands. It's not just Harley Davidson's. I remember making a choice between a Honda Super Blackbird and a Kawasaki ZX9. The Honda Blackbird had just been released. It was an absolutely sensational, almost perfect bike at the time. The ZX9 rattled a lot more. The Kawasaki ZX9 felt much better. The Honda was too smooth and too good. I always find it interesting when people relate the statistics of a motorcycle. Who bloody well cares? It's really how it feels at the seat of your pants and how the motorcycle in general makes you feel. Now, obviously, some people are going to disagree with that and they're going to say, yeah, but that brand motorcycle's got 3 horsepower more and they're going to say some other bullshit. I say go with the way you feel riding a motorcycle, and I think you'll find that the more rattly ones or the ones that are less efficient are going to feel better to ride because they're more mechanical. Not everybody can get their head around it. I think most Harley riders will agree. Now, reason number 4 is they absolutely sound fantastic. Nah, they sound even better than that. And they certainly sound better than the twin cam. And the twin cam certainly sounds better than the M8. And those of you who have got shovels will probably put in the comments, well, shovels sound even better. That is true. Generally speaking, the older bikes sound better. And I also suspect Evos sound better than anything else that's going to come up. Now, off the top of my head, I can't remember how that great sound is achieved. I think it is a combination of a single crank, the angle of the cylinders, and the particular timing that Harley Davidson uses in their engines. If you're a mechanic and you know the exact reason why it happens or why it sounds that way, put it in the comments. But what I do know is they sound far better than any other brand of motorcycle. Now, reason number 5 is they're old enough to be cool, but newer than the older shovels and the bikes that came before that. So they're more reliable and easier to work on. So far, everything I've done on this bike is way easier than the things that I do on the M8. Unlike the shovel before it, the Evolution engine got really popular in the 1990s when Arnold starred in Terminator 2. All of a sudden, Harley started to sell. So there are enormous numbers of these bikes around compared to a shovel, and there are a lot of parts available. So far, it's been really easy to get parts for this bike. That's a pretty good reason to buy a motorcycle because that's the argument I would make for Harley Davidsons in general, older ones, compared to the other manufacturers. There are always parts available, so you can fix things, change things, tailor-make them into something that is suitable for your very cool image. Number 6, I briefly touched upon last week. That's the slow bike hack. It works really well because our perception of things changes based on what we do around something and what we've experienced beforehand. And our abilities and our reflexes change in the same way. So if you jump on a Hayabusa and you get used to it, you get used to doing 300 kilometers an hour everywhere you go, your reflexes and your brain is going to rewire itself to get used to that. I'm at the top of Arthur's Seat. I'm on the old bike, as we can see, about to do a video on slow bikes. And I've met this gentleman here who's come down on his oh, it's a Ducati push bike. No, it's got a
Ducati badge.
Yeah. So I've met Nigel.
Nice to meet you.
He's come up and said hello and that he watches my videos. And we're just having a chat about motorcycles, and he had a Hayabusa and he wants to put a supercharger on it. You don't often meet, and you're 70.
I thought about a supercharger, but I went for handling instead and did Olin suspension, sorted the brakes.
Do you reckon that will go quicker than this?
Might. I know my
I
Hayabusa.
reckon your push bike will go quicker than this.
I have passed Harleys downhill.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, they're just enjoying the view.
If you jump on a bike like this, that is a visceral experience, the shakes, the rattles, the inefficiencies are going to make you think you're going much faster than you are. It's going to be a satisfying experience pushing this bike to its limits. And then after a while of not riding a Hayabusa, you're going to get used to it and you're going to think that this is quick. Now, I'm not saying everyone should do that and therefore slow down, but if you want to slow down, that's an easy way to do it. It's a slow bike hack. You just get used to it. Even just riding around without a fairing seems faster than riding a bike with a fairing. Now, don't get this wrong. I'm not making a judgment saying that slow riding is better in any way. I'm just saying there's got to be a limit to how fast you ride on the road. When I was a young guy, I got caught on a radar once. Let's just say it was under 300. It's very easy to do those speeds and to get used to them. It's probably pretty crazy to do that on the road. I think getting used to riding a little bit slower on the road is a good thing. Now, you got to remember, on this bike, which is a slow bike, I'm still overtaking sports bikes all the time. Because on the road, it's whoever's got the biggest balls to go faster. Now, reason number 7, and that is because they look great, they're classics. Classics always look great because they're classics. You see, once something's a classic, you can't say it looks crap because it's a classic. They've sort of got a look of their own. The Fat Boy is a classic example of that. Harley Davidson, just a few days ago, has released the new Grey Ghost, which is sort of a revival model of the original Grey Ghost Fat Boy. It's not a bad looking bike. It's actually quite interesting, but they're basing it on the latest new Fat Boy, which I think does not look good as the older, this isn't a Fat Boy, this is a Heritage, doesn't look good as the older Fat Boys, which have the skinnier tyres and the solid wheels. In my opinion, the newer model Fat Boys with the slotted wheels and the fat back tyre just don't look as good as the classic Fat Boy looks. Now, obviously that's a matter of opinion, but I don't think the Fat Boy should have a big fat tyre. I'm not a big fan of that whole big fat tyre craze. In my opinion, a Fat Boy should have a fat tank, and that's it. Which of the Fat Boys you think looks the best? New or old? And what do you think? Are Evos classics? Or do they still have another 10, 20, 30, 40 years to go before we can call them that? Now, if you like today's video, you're gonna love this video. Harley Showdown, old school versus new.
Using all that's left, somewhere in your chest, on your sweetheart hidden mist. Oh,